and development.
Ladies and gentlemen, still with our special edition, and now we're delighted to be joined over the telephone by our guest, Mr. Abdul Latif Wahba, our journalist. A very good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Abdul Latif. And of course, today President Sisi received the visiting Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan in Cairo. Talks focused on boosting bilateral ties in various fields, amongst other issues of international concern. How do you see the visit by the Armenian Prime Minister, sir?
As you know, that Egypt and Armenia has a great history and political relations.
Yes.
And at the same time, as you see during the visit of the Prime Minister and his meeting with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, they signed many agreements, especially in environment, education, science, and also in agriculture. I wanted to say that the agriculture one may be important for Armenia and Egypt, as the Armenian market of wheat is approved here in Egypt. So we imported some wheat or quantities from Armenia, and Egypt at the same time played with Armenia in dealing with the exchange of trade increased during the last years. Egypt at the same time exported for Armenia what they need from agri-products, from at the same time some industries like industrial products like fertilizers, porcelain and ceramic, and so on. And at the same time, as you know, that the Armenian people living in Egypt are one of the historic chain between Egypt and Armenia at the same time, especially in Alexandria. And many Armenians stayed and worked here in Egypt in some, as they have their own projects and small, medium entrepreneurs and so on. I think this is the commercials and the trade relations between Egypt and Armenia. But at the same time, as you know, that there is a general content between the two countries over the political problems in the Middle East, and they are cooperating at the same time in the international institutions like United Nations, like Security Council, and so on. And Armenia supported Egypt in Egypt's policy and Egypt's procedures in dealing with the Palestinian issues just now, and they called at the same time to permanent ceasefire as Egypt declared many times before between the Palestinian and the Israeli, or between the Israeli and the Palestinians in Gaza and so on. So they are coordinating not only in trade, not only in economy, but also in political situations.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, we just seen after the talks a number of cooperation agreements and memorandums of understanding were signed between the two sides. What fields do you see are some of the most attractive for such cooperation between the two countries?
As you know, that this cooperation based on the desire of the two countries and the needs of the two countries. You will, of course, increase your export to Armenia, and we can say that Armenia may be a gate for another blocked countries like Turkmenistan, like Kazakhstan, and so on. And at the same time, if Armenia has a great history in fabricating and industrying the agricultural mechanics, tractors, and so on. It is a chance for the two countries to get benefits for the two in two ways, through exchange of trade, through providing or increasing the cooperations, the Armenian cooperations with Egypt in dealing with some agricultural issues here in Egypt, and at the same time for exporting, for the Egyptian export to Armenia at the same.
Right. Mr. Abdel Latif, now the Palestinian cause also topped the agenda of the talks between the two leaders. How would you describe, the international stance towards the Palestinian cause?
As you know that at the beginning of the aggressions and of the Israeli war against the Gazan people, Egypt declared its stance and the situations at the same time. In a time that many European countries took the way toward Israel, but as you know that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi declared that Egypt didn't let to any foreigners to get out of Rafah crossing the border unless releasing the humanitarian aid to the Palestinians at the same time. And this is what happened during that period and until now. You know that Armenia, for example, supported Egypt in all its procedures, condemned the Israeli war against the Gazan people, and called, the both leaders, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi also, called for a permanent ceasefire for the war against the Gazan, to reach to a deal concerning the kidnapped or and the Israeli kidnapped people or hostages and so on.
Absolutely. And how do you see, the continuous vetoes by the United States impacting, its stand as a superpower when it comes to the Palestinian cause?
As you know that at the beginning, they supported Israel in everything. Now they changed their opinion like the other European countries. That the European Union members caused a claim and a shame for the American administration, led us to change its stance from the Israeli war against the Gazan people. And now they are calling. As you know, there is also at the same time a conflict between the Israeli administration, the American administration at the same time, concerning many issues. And the American now declared that they are calling the international society for a Palestinian state. And they said that purely and frankly to the world just now. This was during the last decade, for example, the United States officials didn't utter it. But now they knew the sensitive situations in the Middle East. And at the same time, Israeli aggressions made a very, or makes a very dangerous to the American stakes in the area, and the American goals and the American presence in the Middle East and so on. So the American administrations may be changes, not only now, but in coming weeks at the same time, as they wanted to reach to a deal. Will be the goal of President Biden, who is ready or who is preparing for his presidential campaign at the end of this year.
Absolutely. Also in the talks today, the Prime Minister Pashinyan said talks discussed the necessity of achieving peace in the Caucasus. How do you read this statement, sir?
Yeah, of course. This is what President Fattah al-Sisi called for a Caucasus for settling the disputes in the Middle East and to deal with the Middle East peace process. This is, I think, maybe in the second week of the Israeli war against the Gazan people, because if you called for such caucus, it means there is a willing and preparedness from the political leaders to adopt the solutions of two states, independent states, and to adopt at the same time the rights of the Palestinians to live in their land.
Absolutely. And do you see, could you tell us a bit about some of the common challenges that face Cairo and Yerevan?
Of course. I think they agreed on the basic principle for dealing with the Middle East peace process, and also they called for the cooperation between the two countries in all sectors, not only trade only, but economy at the same time, and to get benefits in two ways.
Absolutely. And finally, let me ask you, how do you see, benefits from each of the countries increasing ties and exchange between the two countries on several fronts?
Of course, as you know, that Egypt is the gate for the African continent,
yes,
and the African countries, and at the same time, Armenia may be another gate for the Central Europe in these times. And let me say that, for example, if you signed a contract of or imported wheat from Kazakhstan, it must be moved to Armenia or to other open countries or have ports, naval ports, and so on. So you can achieve benefits from relations with Armenia. If you, for example, get or contracted on some wheat from Kazakhstan, for example, it will be more cheap than the other offered in the world market, as this is a closed country. So Armenia may be a gate for also for some states, especially the previous Soviet states formed in this area, and they can increase its export to these countries.
Absolutely right. I'd like to thank you very, very much, Mr. Abdul Latif Wahab, our journalist and our guest for this afternoon. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on our special edition and for all your insight. That wraps up the special edition for now. Do stay tuned for more coming your way on Nile TV International.